Thank you so much, Ron, and thank you everyone for joining today. I will say, by the way, if we're talking media entertainment, if you ever want to learn a little bit more about what I think is real world hacking, one show I highly recommend is Mr. Robot. There's a lot of shows like the Cyber NCIS, which to me have a Hollywood version of hacking. They don't necessarily follow accurate things, but I did a GeekWire blog series on each episode of Mr. Robot, and there's actually very legitimate real world hacking in there. I was the nerd that literally paused every screenshot and analyzed some of the tools and things they did. And they actually had fantastic consultants on the show. So anyways, if you're into media and entertainment, check out Mr. Robot. As Ron mentioned, I'm here to talk about cybersecurity, which definitely affects media and entertainment companies, as well as every type of organization around the world. What I am here to talk about today, kind of a fun 20, 25 minutes, it looks like we have a little more time now, is our 2021 cybersecurity predictions. And do know these predictions are general. When we give these predictions, they're kind of for all organizations and even thought leadership to talk to consumers and people out there too. Albeit many of these predictions, and I'll point out when, do specifically affect media and entertainment companies, as anyone that's a digital native or has gone through a digital transformation has a lot of the similar things we'll talk about today. So I'll cover all that. Before I get started, my name is Corey Knockreiner. I'm the Chief Technology Officer of WatchGuard. Don't want to talk a lot about me. If you Google me, you can find some information. I've done a few things, but do know at least I have 20 plus years of cybersecurity experience. So I've been doing this a long time, definitely over the 10,000 hours that supposedly makes you an expert. But for time's sake, I don't want to talk too much about me. This presentation isn't really to talk too much about WatchGuard as a company or our product. So I do just want to let you know who we are and what we do in case you're interested. And really, our mission is to provide accessible enterprise class security to mid-market organizations. So everything from small to medium businesses to large mid-markets. And we have all kinds of different customers, definitely hospitals and healthcare customers, broadcast and entertainment companies. I have spoken at a broadcast conference called the SMPTE, talking about cybersecurity before, and really everything in between, gaming companies, traditional businesses, retailers, franchisees, lots of different companies. Our products are really all kinds of different security products. Oh, sorry. And they range from, we're known best for our network security products with something called the Firebox. And it really starts with a next generation firewall or unified threat management appliance that has all kinds of different aspects of layered security, from malware detection, intrusion prevention, and many other things. We have endpoint products. We just acquired a big endpoint security company. So we have a full endpoint protection suite that can protect all these remote workers you have out there. And by the way, our network products work in public, private clouds, virtual networks, all over the place. And finally, we also have a great identity protection, multi-factor authentication service, so offering strong authentication. So really, full stack security from network to endpoint to identity. So when I talk about these predictions, it's not just to warn you about the threats, but I will be giving you some general security advice to how to protect yourself. And while I'm not going to spend a lot of time on product, because I don't have a lot of time, and I'd rather educate you to the threat, do know we have products to solve all these problems. So with that said, why don't we dive in with one of my 8 predictions? So prediction number 1 is automation is going to drive a tidal wave of spear phishing campaigns with the emphasis on the spear part of that. So I'm sure even if you're not security experts out there, you're probably pretty aware of phishing and spear phishing. Phishing is this more traditional, it's a type of email that's sent en masse in volume to everyone usually that's trying to pretend to be a login to your bank, maybe a UPS package, a FedEx package, or something like that. And its goal is to fake something legitimate in order for you to click a link or open an attachment, usually clicking a link which will show a login page. And it really is a fake login page. They want to get your user's credential so they can use that credential to attack your network. Phishing's been around forever. Because it's sent in volume, it's relatively easy to block. But spear phishing is the much bigger problem that all of your organizations face nowadays. Spear phishing is the more targeted brand of phishing. Usually the bad guy's done some sort of reconnaissance. He's learned a little bit about either one of your specific employees, your organization in general, what your department heads are, what they do. He's learned something about your business or you as a personal person at home, so that when they craft their email message, it's much more targeted to you. It's not necessarily sent to everyone. In fact, it's usually only sent to maybe one department or one person. So things that are looking for a volumetric malicious email can't catch it. These emails do end up in your box. And again, their goal is to get you to run a attachment, often documents that are somehow booby-trapped, or to go to a link to enter a credential, or just to get some drive-by download malware. Now, one of the things that have protected us is, by the way, spear phishing is one of the worst threats out there. The Variety data breach in 2019, or they reported that 80% of successful breaches involve stolen, weak, or lost credentials. And often these credentials, they're either through data breaches or this kind of spear phishing is how the attacker gets them. Now, the one thing that's kind of been saving us from spear phishing is it's tended to be very manual for the attacker. The attacker would have to go do the recon about their victim before they sent this specially crafted message. But really, this prediction is about how attackers are leveraging the same automation we use to benefit our business. They're using automation to drive phishing. They already have a rich underground where they've sold tools just to automate the phishing part of this. But the spear phishing, the fact that they can go out and gain intelligence, do reconnaissance, they have now automated that intelligence gathering where they scrub social networks, they scrub organization websites. They have tools that can take one address and find one email address and find all kinds of related email addresses, or they have tools that can have a person's name and find related names that that person might be a friend to. And they've automated that process too now. And they're bringing those two type of tools, the automated reconnaissance and the automated phishing, together to start automating spear phishing. And lots more people click on spear phishing than they do normal phishing. So the fact that we're going to see an increased volume of this is actually a significant danger. And by the way, they're also leveraging things like machine learning and natural language processing to help write their emails as well, and make them more convincing to humans with less mistakes. So really the point is, phishing has always been high volume, but phishing is easy to catch and easy to block. Spear phishing is much more targeted. Users click on it more. And now that we're probably going to see a much increased volume of this, we really need to be prepared for it. Now, what should you do about this? Well, one of the good news things is if they automate spear phishing that it does show up in volume, some of our automated tools might be able to catch it and prevent it from getting in the inbox too. But let's presume spear phishing does get into your inbox. My best security advice for any organization out there, especially media organizations who have been spear phished before, is to do two things. One, use domain and URL filtering technology. There's things like DNS firewalling or filtering, and web-based firewalling and filtering. And WatchGuard has both. We have DNS Watch and Web Blocker in various different products. And basically what these do is every time your user clicks a link, whether real or suspicious, if for instance it's using our DNS Watch, before they even visit that link, they have to do a DNS lookup. And when they do, we see where they're going, and we have huge lists of dynamic threat intelligence that know all the latest phishing sites and command and control sites and malware download sites. And if we see them going to one of those, rather than returning the real place, we're going to return them to a safe page that warns them they clicked on a malicious link. So that's really the gist of it. So if your users do click on this, it can save them from actually reaching the bad site. The second thing is malicious attachments are often used in spearfish. Traditional fish are almost always links. Spearfish also have malicious attachments, also documents. So you should have advanced anti-malware solutions. There's a lot of antivirus solutions out there, legacy antivirus that are very signature-based. They only can block what they know about. More advanced anti-malware solutions use things like machine learning or behavioral analysis so that even without a human, they can identify a brand new piece of malware proactively. And WatchGuard has plenty of those too, as do other organizations out there. So consider advanced anti-malware protection. Sorry I'm speeding along, but very little time. The second prediction, which could to some extent affect media and entertainment customers, which often use a lot of the cloud, is cloud hosting providers will finally crack down on cyber abuse. And this is a good thing. Basically, this prediction is around the fact that bad guys have been leveraging the public cloud too for bad things. A lot of cloud resources out there allow customers to have vanity links that are in legitimate domains, like CloudFront, part of AWS. You can actually have a subdomain under CloudFront or a subdomain under SharePoint or OneDrive or docs.google.com. You can have a file there. And if you think about phishing or any other attack where an attacker is trying to get you to click a link, if that link looks legitimate, if it looks like a CloudFront link, a SharePoint link, or a OneDrive link, they might think, oh, that's safe. I know Microsoft, I know Amazon, I'm going to click on it. The problem is bad guys, because they can host files on these legitimate domains, they've been putting a lot of redirects to more evil sites or hosting files in these domains to kind of put something in a legitimate domain that users are comfortable clicking on, getting you to go to bad stuff. So we do a quarterly internet security report based on data we see from our feeds, and we see a whole lot of these CloudFront, SharePoint, and OneDrive links as the host of some malicious link, because a bad guy can put something up in these public clouds just as easily as a good company. So the prediction is actually a good thing for all of us. We believe these big cloud providers are going to use better automation and machine learning to really crack down on these links and to do better scans of what their customers are putting in their infrastructure, including their potentially malicious customers, to wipe this out. So the good news is, hopefully the cloud providers will take care of this for us in 2021. The one tip for you, though, is this is another reason you want something that monitors the files and links you visit, because sometimes even the links that come from a legitimate domain happen to be ones that can be managed from someone other than that domain. So it can be dangerous. Prediction number 3, and this doesn't seem very businessy, but you'll learn in a second it is hackers infest home networks with worms. And the truth is, the real point of this prediction is they're infesting the home network with the worm because they're using the home network as the pivot point or the supply chain hack to get into a corporation. Almost all businesses out there, and I'm sure streaming and entertainment businesses are the same, as we see a lot of news anchors and late night shows having them or their employees still working from home while they're writing the show. Much of the global professional workforce has started working from the home. And we believe even after the vaccine, a significant percentage is going to find that working from home really meets their lifestyle, and businesses have learned it can work out. So we think this could continue, at least in increased volumes before 2020, throughout 2021 and beyond. So what this attack is, bad guys have always had malware that infects home users. And if you don't know what a worm is a special type of malware that besides just infecting that one victim, it will automatically spread to all the other victims on the network. That has always existed as a possibility. There's a lot of malware that has worms. This prediction is saying that this worm code is now going to have some additional code that will kind of enumerate the victim computer. There are lots of ways to see what your network is like on a home computer, or if you're running something called a virtual private network. I'm sure the IT guys listening know a VPN is one of the secure ways you can allow home users to access your corporation. But these home-focused worms are going to be doing things like a ipconfig command to look for a virtual tap adapter. And once they see that, hey, this home computer has a virtual network adapter and it's connected to this private network, they know that there's a high likelihood that that's a juicy corporate network they might be able to get into. So you're going to see the home worms looking for that VPN and doing their pivoting through that VPN tunnel to the corporate network. So really one of the predictions, the main point is, if you don't get all the technical stuff, expect attackers to target home users, but as a pivot point to get into corporate networks. Now, the protection for this, VPNs, especially VPNs with multi-factor authentication, are a great thing. You should use them, but you need strong anti-malware, advanced anti-malware products at your home computers, at your home employee computers. Besides just traditional AV, make sure you're using a full, strong endpoint protection suite. that usually has like 10 different layers of security, multiple different malware detection techniques, all kinds of other things that look for exploit protection against your device and malicious web and email stuff, because you don't want this kind of worm getting to your home users. Again, sorry, I'm going fast. I only have about 9 minutes left. This one is more generic consumer prediction, but it's booby-trapped smart chargers will lead to the next smart car attack. And to really talk about this one quickly, I consider this my peanut butter and chocolate prediction, where you take, from an attacker's perspective, two good things, mush them together to make something new that's also good. And we have seen many smart car attacks. Back in, I think it was 2015, 2014, Chris Asek and Charlie Miller found a really big vulnerability that allowed you to take over a car, including turning it a bit and braking it on the highway from the internet. But since then, there hasn't been that many major car attacks yet. There's a lot of research into it, lots of little vulnerabilities, but that was the last big major smart car research we've seen. There's also attacks on charging channels of smart devices, especially mobile phones. You might know that the charging cable of your mobile phone also has a data channel. So there's all kinds of attacks that can either kill your phone over that USB charging connection, or ones that are designed to slurp data using vulnerabilities to get over some of the security controls. And actually, you might go to an airport, plug into a free charger, and if it's a booby-trapped one, it might be able to steal data from your phone. So we got to realize a lot of charging cables carry data channels. Smart cars are no different. While they don't carry the same type of full data channel that a mobile device does, there is a data component that helps the smart charging system control the charge of the car. And really the prediction is the vector bad guys are going to target for smart cars next is probably this charger, because if you can plug into a booby-trapped server at home, or you plug into some charger that someone's booby-trapped out there, they might be able to prevent the charge of your car, damage your battery. Or again, sometimes you have a server running at home managing your smart charger. They could even install ransomware that doesn't let you charge your car unless you pay a certain amount. So this is kind of more general consumer prediction, but interesting one considering the devices that are in our networks. This one is interesting, and it's users are going to revolt over smart device privacy. Generally, all users out there, whether you're businesses, media entertainment companies, or just a home user, we have more and more non-traditional computers in our life that all qualify as Internet of Things. And a lot of these are gathering, they're really sensors gathering a lot of data about us. They gather that data to provide a service, but they also get a lot of value from that data. So, whether you've actually bought a Google device or a Cortana or Alexa device, you probably already have Cortana, Siri, and Alexa in your home just from your computer or your mobile phone. So devices are already listening to things we do. Web cameras are sharing all that data with the cloud too. Again, a lot of benefit to the customer but we have a lot of our privacy information going in the cloud. Even my favorite VR headset, now I am a nerdy gamer, has to have a social media account and now is able to track all kinds of different and new types of data about me. And this is kind of becoming a societal concern. You see it in the news. There's a lot of reasons that the government's going after social media companies, including, them buying businesses to take over business, but it's also because of all these privacy concerns. We know for sure a couple of years ago, Europe was so concerned about it, they passed the GDPR. Here in California, at least at that state level, we've passed things like the California Consumer Privacy Act and even enhanced that with the CPRA. So some of that GDPR-like user privacy law is coming to the United States. And we think just based on the things that are happening in society, consumers are finally really getting upset about this privacy issue. And you're going to see them start making choices with their wallet on what products they buy based on privacy issues. Prediction number 4, because I am very low on time, is attackers swarm VPNs and RDPs as remote workforce swells. The technical folks out there know VPNs provide secure connection and access back to your corporation, and RDP is really kind of the same, but it's more remote desktop access. You're controlling the desktop or the terminal server back at home. These are two, RDP especially is one of the most attacked services on the internet already. So really, it's no surprise attackers are going after RDP. But long story short, because of the pandemic, the amount of VPN and RDP usage has really jumped up to easily 4 to 10 times, especially for VPN. And because of that, That's the attacker's way into your network. They realize you have to expose these services externally, so they're going to start to attack them even more. So the prediction is simple. Expect attacks on these services to double. What should you do about it? Well, for RDP, I personally don't think you should ever expose RDP by itself. It does have encryption and security, but if you just allow the RDP login portal to anyone on the internet, it's a little more dangerous. Even if there's a vulnerability in RDP, which there has been in the past, bad guys can take it over. So make sure to put protections or access control around it. One thing to do is don't expose it publicly at all. Require a VPN to get access to it because that gives it a second layer of security. Or if you do have to expose the RDP directly, put access controls in your network security appliance or like our Firebox to only limit it to certain users. For both of it, especially VPN2, add multi-factor authentication to it. There's so many data breaches I don't have time to talk about, but your employees, like many people in the world, reuse credentials often. I alone in my own dark web leak service where I can tell you if your email has had data leaked, I host 100 million leaked credentials, and reportedly on the underground, there's 15 billion leaked credentials, 5 billion if you dedupe it all. MFA, adding a second factor of authentication just in case an attacker has stolen your password, is one of the best protections you can definitely do on VPN and RDP, but you really should do across any service that has authentication in your network. Another prediction is attackers will pinpoint security gaps in legacy endpoints. And really here, this could be any legacy software, but for this prediction, we're focusing on Windows 7 and Server 2008. You might know early this year, Microsoft has ended their extended support of this. That translates to there are no more patches. Lots of people still use Windows 7. In fact, I know organizations, even in some of the industries like yours, that still use things like Windows 2003 because there were custom frameworks built that work only in that version of .NET or whatever. So for whatever reason, many organizations still have these legacy systems. And as soon as a vendor stops patching them, that's great. That's a rich target for bad guys. If I can find a new zero-day flaw in Windows 7, there's a good chance that Microsoft won't patch it, so it will remain unfixed for the extent of time, which is why these bad guys really look for vulnerabilities in these products. What's the takeaway here? Well, number one, if there's any way you can upgrade to something that has support that gets patched, do that. If you can't, you definitely need to layer security and access control around that particular device. I will say the one good news here is Microsoft has actually improved greatly over the last 10 years for security. And there have been really big vulnerabilities like external blue that were used in the WannaCry attack that even XP was vulnerable, and it was well past end of life. But good guy Microsoft did sometimes still release a patch after the extended support. You can't count on that. As soon as they end it, it's not something you can count on. But do know if something's really bad, hopefully they'll help you out. But the point is, upgrade if you can, protect it otherwise. The final prediction, I think I'm over 1 minute, but really quickly, every service without MFA will suffer a breach. This is kind of a shoot the moon prediction. There are tons and tons of services on the internet, so it's actually unlikely that hackers can literally hack every one. But our point here is if you have any exposed login, any publicly exposed login that does not have multi-factor, that is your weak link to your network. 80% of attacks, as I think I mentioned before, according to Verizon Data Breach, are due to lost, stolen, or weak credentials. If you expose a login in the cloud that I can get to, even though I have nothing to do with your organization, there's a good chance that I might be able to log in as one of your legitimate users based on a data leak, based on phishing that user, based on various attacks, even malware that steals credentials, and get into that service. MFA is one of the best ways to protect yourself. And the good news is, by the way, the reason some organizations don't have MFA is because it caused user friction or was expensive and hard. New MFA systems have really simplified that. Rather than typing extra things, they have things like push approvals that are much easier for users. So it is much simpler. But with that said, I'm a bit over, so thank you very much for your time. I don't think I have time for questions, but certainly happy to respond to any via email. Thanks, Ron.
Excellent. That was great. I'm going to have you back, Corey, in a year so we can compare your predictions now to what happened next year.
If you don't mind me pimping, if you go to setplicity.org, we have the 443 podcast. You can also find it on all the streaming services out there. We do that every year ourselves. So if you want to see how we did on our 2020, what our 2020 predictions were and how we did, our end of year podcast we just released did that specifically for 2020.